This is a streamer pattern that has bailed me out on many a winter afternoon the last couple years. It rides upside down and it's best fished on a floating line in a slow series of strips. It really breathes well in the water. And I find that if I get a fish chasing it, if I just stop the fly, if the water's in the 30s, they will eat it, and in the 40s too. As the water gets warmer, that stopping of the fly when a fish is chasing becomes less effective. But it really does seem to work especially well on days when nothing else is working. So I guess we could call it the Nothin Doin fly. It really just exists because of those spawn shanks. There's really nothing new to it other than a new piece of fly tying equipment. So what I do here is I'm just going to wrap some Marabou to give it more breath. I've tried it with both. I think it looks and works better with the Marabou, but you know, you get such a small sample size when you're streamer fishing. It's hard to say what makes a difference, even if you fish all the time. As you can see, I do not like to put a lot of time into making pretty streamer flies. I think it matters kinda, but it's just knowing what to focus on. This fly has to just breathe a lot. So there I was real sloppy, but ultimately the end result is good enough. We're gonna use red wire and some light olive chenille. It's so hard to get fly tying materials at this point in 2022 that I'm tying out of my home office supply. So in the description, I linked the materials I usually use. Those we do have in stock in the shop, but rather than deplete them to tie this fly, I'm just tying a couple substitutions. So this would typically be just an olive chenille instead of this kind of variegated thing. And go up. And we're gonna double wrap just to kind of keep the body fat. In cold water, I think fish like big bites to eat or very small ones. So, but you know, a big old ensemble brown trout is an ambush predator. It's not going to chase a size 6 woolly bugger all the way across the river when the water's super cold. Okay, we're gonna use either, standard saddle hackle or schlappen. I typically use schlappen, but I have so much of this black saddle hackle, I'm gonna use it. So basically you're tying a woolly bugger here. Wrap it. Maybe an extra one at the head there, and then we'll come on back with it. Just barely have enough to eke it out, and then we're going to take our red wire, wrap it up, tie it off, and that's the back of our fly. Per usual, I've left my whip finisher elsewhere. Cut that off. Okay, so now for the shank. We're gonna hook that on like that. There's your eye that you're gonna use. And we're gonna clip it like that. That's how we're gonna tie the rest of the fly. So this fly uses what I consider to be a magic streamer ingredient, at least on the ensemble, and especially on the upper river, where the fish are almost always hiding under wood, deer hair, and weighted eyes. And the reason I think it works so well, this is us just sealing that back hook in, is the eyes pull the fly under right away. and the deer hair then stops the fall and the fly sort of suspends. It doesn't suspend for very long, but boy, I think that's a key component, is to have a suspension to your streamer. You know, if it's just floating and you're waiting for the sinking line to pull it under, that works great in some places, but on the ensemble, I'd much rather have a fly that immediately sinks down into the view, because you have a limited amount of time away from a structure that fish is going to chase. So if it hits next to a log, it sinks down into trout view, you strip once, and you better hope that that fish has a keen interest in following it at that point, or you're in trouble. I don't spend a lot of time or a long time on any one component of a streamer, as I said, but I do want to make sure that I get enough bulk in this and enough little things going on. So we are going to add rubber legs. We're going to add some flash on either side of it. I like the speckled gold, which is what I recommend. I just don't have any at home, and again, it's in short supply. So just going to put a little bit of gold on either side here. This fly is coming together rapidly, which is just the way you like it. All right, now we're going to repeat. As you can see, there's not a lot of room here, and you could argue that these steps are a little unnecessary, but you can see this even when I put the deer hair head on. That's good enough. So back with the chenille. Okay. Tuck it right up into the eyes there. I don't need to spin a whole deer hair head. I can pretty much just stack it up there. So that's why we're going to kind of work our way up a little bit. All right. This is where you really like to have Schlappen. I do have a nice webby saddle hackle here. Put that on very carefully. Try not to trap too much stuff here. We're going to wrap it back. And we'll hook up that with that red wire. Work our way back through. All right, now we're just going to use some black rubber legs, and I would urge not to skip this step. When you fish it and see it in the water, I think you'll see what I mean. But if you V out the rubber legs, they really take up a lot of room when it swims. And again, taking up a lot of room is, I think, what we're looking for. So I'm putting 2 on either side. And by what I mean by a lot of room is I want this to be a substantial enough meal that a big brown thinks it's worth it. But I don't want it to be such a big meal that it, excludes every fish but the, biggest in the river. That's great. I mean, if you want to trophy hunt all the time, but if you're just going fishing and want to catch some fish, well, you don't need to say, okay, well, I'm not interested in a 15-incher. I'm definitely interested in a 15-incher. I don't have very good deer hair again, but what you'll see I'm doing, even if you have crappy deer hair, is you can stand it up and make it do what you want. And with this fly, we really don't want it to do too much. It goes from just laying flat and looking really crappy to standing on end. And believe it or not, that's all I want it to do. We're going to hold back this top here. Trapped a couple. Build just a little eye there, or head there, and then we'll work our way around. Now I'm going to come in here and just kind of clip it. You do not need to trim it, razor blade it too much. Just going to put a little bit flatter head on it. But we're just looking for some uniform, sense of uniformity to it. And that is a fly that's caught me quite a bit of fish. It sinks down like this. It has a lot of movement. It really can save your day.